So if you've ever wondered how pitch decks are put together and what information needs to go in, this is the video for you. So we recently presented this pitch to a VC, and the reason behind it was, in our previous business, we bootstrapped from zero, basically in a carport, the standard startup story, all the way to 400 staff, sold for 180 million. We did it all with our own money. This time around, we're trying to experiment with new things because it's a slightly different way of advertising, and more money will help us scale faster. We already have product market fit, so we just want to kind of put a little bit of petrol on that to speed up the process. We've never done it before. We like to do new things and try, because that's the whole reason we do it, for the game. So we decided to give you a quick walkthrough of our pitch deck and tell you why we put certain things in there and why we left certain things out. So let's jump into that.
And keeping in mind, this isn't going to be your typical pitch deck that follows all the rules of a Silicon Valley startup thing. This is just things that we think are important for a VC to know about the business.
Yes. And one other point to that is my brothers spend a lot of time reviewing pitch decks. And one thing that they really want to see, we'll show you. It's included in ours. So let's go. All right, here we go. ClipFlow's pitch deck. So the first thing that we like to talk about is, or to show, is who we are, right? So, or one of the most important things that VCs tell or highlight is usually they want to invest in the founders. It's not so much about the business. Ideas can pivot and change over time, but what they want to know is that the people they're investing into are able to execute. So what we're showing here in our one is who we are. So it's basically just a quick run through, but the key highlight here is that we developed and exited Realbase, and it was acquired by Domain in 2022, not 23, but it gives you the point there, right? So we're just kind of highlighting one of our success stories. And sometimes when you're starting out, you may not have that, but you could use something like, I've been working in this industry for X years, so I understand the problem. And another great thing about this is if you've been doing the work with your personal brand and like your marketing, someone's going to look at that name, they're going to chuck it into Google, and they're going to search you. And then all the work you've been doing is going to come to the surface, and they can very quickly see who you are. So that's why it's important to kind of do the personal branding just purely for that, like your digital business card. The next slide in here was talking about our unfair advantage. I thought about this slide the night before, and I just thought it's worth talking about why we as a team have an unfair advantage against other people that could be building exactly the same thing. So the key highlight is we've built and exited a project management app before, and now we're bringing that experience to creators, right? So we're taking what we know and we're just doing it again, but just slightly with a different flavor and a different spin. So it means we know how to build the tools already. So Darrell, do you just want to cover those kind of key points that you added down the bottom here?
So this is like essentially based on what Ken was saying, they're investing in you, not the business. So this is the unique selling proposition of you as opposed to the business. You get into the other stuff later about what the business can do. These are the things that are stand out to us that we think made the last success we built successful. And it might be a bit harder for someone who's new and hasn't done something before to find the things that they're really confident in, but a lot of the time it's just speaking to the things, the same reasons you'd get hired for a job, right? It's like, I'm really motivated. I do this. I gave up everything to be here. Any story-based stuff. So anything that sort of leads to you're going to be 100% dedicated to it. So this is, we know we're going to be good because we ship fast, and we are quite ruthless with prioritization, and we've always been focused on product-led growth. The other call-outs are where we're focused. So the reason we believe in the idea of the project, we see that other people in the industry don't see that same position. And so we're taking a bet on that position. So we're highlighting that here. We're taking a bet that other platforms can't focus in the same way as we are, or won't focus in the same way as we are. And that gives us the product stand out, but it gives us that strength as well, that we're identifying something that other competitors haven't. And also confidently stating that position. Like, we might be right or wrong about that thing, but we are confident in testing it to the end. And then finally, competitive landscape. So that's talking.
It's talking about why YouTube wouldn't build the same thing, or why Instagram, because they can't be agnostic because they want to push their own product. The shareholders wouldn't really like that. So,
I would try and pull something like that from conversations that you have. So as you have conversations with people like VCs and people who understand all of the economics of the business, this one specifically talks to a question we were asked by someone in the investing space to say like, oh, well, what if XYZ happens? We put that in that like, here's a reason why that won't happen. And it sort of answers that objection that other people with a similar business mind might also be thinking.
Yep. Yeah. And again, I think it's key to understand that a pitch deck is a sales presentation. You're actually selling yourself to someone. So sales is all about getting rid of objections. So if you can find the objections through the process, so this is why doing heaps of these is actually not a bad thing. Being rejected many times is not a bad thing because you're getting reps in. You're learning what to say. So as you go, if you can just get people to say yes to talk to you, that's amazing. Because then you can say, okay, there's an objection. How can I highlight that objection, bring it in early, and then solve it? Because then it already just ticks that objection off and it's not there. So you can keep moving on.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also like getting free consulting because the people that you're talking to in these processes are quite intelligent. I've seen a lot of businesses go well and fail, and the things that their objections come from, you can build that into your business and your product. You can say like, I do agree with that. That could be a problem. Here's how we think we're going to address it in the future. And some of them you can ignore entirely because you just don't believe that that's the case.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So the next slide is where the market is currently. So it's basically just talking about what's happening in the space that we're working in. So, and kind of identifying the problem a little bit. We want to talk to the problem here. So we are basically calling out that to build a content business or content first business, you need to be represented on at least 4 platforms. So you're talking about YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and you're posting in multiple different formats and you're posting almost daily. This is like this is a business really focused on it, right? Obviously it scales depending. So there's a whole bunch of tools in the market, but they're all creating or built around the idea of creating content. So it's like whether you're producing shorts or ideation or something, nothing's targeting what we're doing. We're also calling out that the market's still in its infancy, right? So there's a whole bunch of tools that people are using, but they're not really built for purpose, like email, chat, like Slack, and then people customizing other project management tools to do like a close enough kind of thing, but nothing's really coming from the standpoint of like, this is for a content creator to manage projects. And then there's also, we can see that there's a secondary market, which is the template sales. You can see when you can buy Notion templates and guides and educational material, all built around the concept of the content OS, but they're trying to build those templates to fit into other tools, right? So we can see that there's a need for it. There's a desire. Lots of people are making money from it. So there's something there. And that's how we identify that. Is there anything you want to talk on that one, Darrell?
Yep. So it's important to remember that these people might be very familiar with business, and it's very unlikely they're as in the industry as you think they are or know anything about it. Be as broad as possible. And this is essentially all you need, as opposed to like a business plan would recommend you do a SWOT analysis. This is essentially it. This is telling them where we think we will be positioned. We're telling them what our strengths are. We're telling what the market's doing, and you're addressing competition and everything here, but you're also like flipping the objection of the competition and saying, here's the competition. Here's why it's not doing X, Y, Z. Here's why we'll be better than that. So especially with the template market, the content OS thing, you're talking about opportunities that exist and like proof that there's opportunities there.
So here's where we actually outline exactly our mission statement. Like, what are we building? So we've kind of highlighted what the problems are, where we think a tool could exist. And then here's where we basically do the elevator pitch. Like, what is Clipflow, right? So our main thing after, 6 months to a year of working on this thing is we've identified that it is project management for content creators. That's the line. If someone says, what is Clipflow? If they're just talking, you need to be able to say that really quickly and come up with something so you can describe it. Not like, it's an AI augmented platform that helps video creators manage their project. It's like, no, it's a project management platform for creators, right? Because you want to be able to communicate in plain English to someone very quickly. And what are we doing? We're connecting content teams, tasks, workflows for every project on every channel. And it's collaborative, it's controlled, and it helps them deliver on time. And that's it. That's in a nutshell. That's the goal of Clipflow. That's what we're trying to build. All right. So we want to be really clear, really simple, so that this is the one slide. Like if they just go, what is this thing? That's the thing.
Yep. And our message wouldn't have been anywhere near as strong if we tried to make this pitch deck before we built anything. So this is iterative, and it should be growing as you're launching and talking to users. You figure these things out and you strengthen that message over time.
Yep. And definitely as you go through stages, if you are going to go through the VC merry-go-round, is that you want this to change. And this needs to evolve, because like as you we're kind of looking here seed, right? Even though we're not really seed, but it is kind of, you're going for that seed round. So you're trying to figure out, like, they're still trying to take a gamble on the idea. The idea may not even be correct, or the assumptions. But as you go through time, you're going to get more and more focused and laser focused. And I believe that this will happen with us too. We're still trying to figure out that exact perfect customer that needs this tool, so that you can charge the most amount of money and they get the most amount of value. That's the customer you're looking for. And over time, well, our messaging will change, because once you figure that out, you're going to really laser target. Then you're like, this is how many of this customer they are, and we are the only one serving them perfectly. And then we're going to go after that market. So this again is kind of talking about what it is, but it's also like our goal and like what is our mission. Very similar to the previous slide, but a bit more detailed. So over time, again, we've figured out that we're on a mission to turn content chaos into creative calm. It's kind of like a little bit of a tagline. We use it in our marketing messaging, because we know that creators are just working in chaos with 5-6 different tools, and it becomes quite stressful. And we really want, our goal is to turn that into calm. So you know what's going on through communication and following process. And that just helps everything level out and become calm. So, and then here what we're saying is, the competition is too big, too general, and too focused on individual pieces of larger process. And so either is a tool like a standard project management tool that's just trying to be, it does for your business, your hairdresser business, your content business, your tech business, doing ticketing support systems. They're trying to do everything, because they need to grow to basically take over the whole market. And they can't focus just on creators, because it's too small of a niche for them in the big picture. So they're too general. Or you have tools that are focused, like we said earlier on in the slides, that are looking for, ideation or thumbnail design, or it's just one piece and it's not really tying it together. So that's kind of what we trying to say, what's our mission or goal. So again, continuing on with that same thread, is we're looking to reduce complexity. So we're basically just describing what it means to go from chaos to calm. So what does that mean? It means you're going to reduce complexity when you're doing high volume. We're helping businesses, so people trying to make money through content, master organic and paid, because we know that businesses have more money to spend. And this is what we highlighted here when we were having the chats. It's like, we don't want to go after the starting creators that are just doing it for the art, because that's a great thing and that tool will help them as they scale. But in the beginning, that's not your core market. You want to be able to target people that make money, because in the end of the day, you also have to understand that a VC is an investor. They represent investors who are only in it to make money. That's the goal of the game. It's to invest money and multiply that money. There's no real other reason. So you need to be able to talk on why your business is going to make money. And the only way you're going to make money is if you sell to people who have money. So that's why we're focusing on businesses there. And then we also want to solve content creation at scale, right? So we want to be able to help you manage multiple projects across multiple channels easily. So we've already got customers doing that. So we can confidently say that that's what our goal is, and we're actually achieving that goal. Anything else there, Darrell?
Yeah, this is my least favorite or most controversial slide, because I always find total addressable market numbers to be baloney when you're like, there's 200 million creators, but if you talk to the amount of people that will actually be suitable users, it always narrows down quite a bit. So these are always like more about setting market trends is much more important than saying, like, obviously that says there's 200 million creators there, but the entire economy or industry doubling in a few years is much more important, because it doesn't matter how many creators are there. All that matters is that you're in a rising trend. You're setting yourself up to be in a position to take advantage of a much bigger market when it's there, as opposed to a trailing off market where you'd have to cash grab really quickly. This is something that you can see slow and steady growth for a long time, and the VCs get to report back to everyone that all of their investments are doing well because they've got good either steady growth or hockey stick growth, whatever it is, but they don't have to worry about you developing something into a shrinking market, which if you were doing that, you'd have to be developing something cheaper, faster, and selling for a much higher amount of money because it's a cash grab. It's not a long-term play that can grow into these unicorns.
Yeah. I think the only reason I like to sometimes just look at that is you want to know you're playing in a market that has money. Because if your total addressable market was like 10 million and there's a lot of competitors in it, it just becomes a market you don't really want to enter. Like if you're selling something really, really niche for a low price, it just doesn't, it's not worth entering. So sometimes just, it's good to know, like this is how we always think about business is we get really, and it's what makes it really exciting in the beginning. It's like, how big can it get? Like, because you want to know the sky's the limit, right? It can go enormous. But then we know you have to do all the work. So you have to still do the work to get there, but it just means that it's not limited. So there are industries, like the industry we were in previously was a lot smaller. It could only scale. There were only X amount of real estate agents in Australia doing X amount of volume. And the addressable market was small unless you jumped country, right? So it's important to know. And then in other countries, they don't have the same models. So our market was much smaller, which meant the business could only reach a certain size, basically hit its cap. Didn't have much more room to grow. So once you got all the whales, it's like, well, there's nothing left. Now you're struggling from the bottom of the market. Now you have to try and reduce costs to make your margins bigger, where it's much nicer to work in an industry where it's just enormous. There's so much room to play. There's a lot of room for players, and it's growing. It's
like international immediately and everything.
Yep.
I think like the numbers that would be really helpful, they don't exist. Like you can't get them without spending way too much time on it. And I don't think anyone who's at a pitch deck stage should be spending too much time on trying to get numbers. But if you could get numbers that would really perform well here, it would be how much is each creator spending on their tooling every month? How much are they making from the products that they sell every month? Like how much is sponsor money? If you had a breakdown of averages across the entire industry, you would, but it is in its infancy and it doesn't have that sort of data around it. It's not like big enterprise companies that all have like, oh, here's how banks report their numbers and they know all of this stuff. You don't know it about this. So you have to be a little bit more broad in the stats you can get and just, talk to the trends, and you can't really get the numbers that would be super valuable, but which is fine. You just have to speak to that when you're speaking to the VCs and be like, there's this many people, there's 10% of that are going to be our potential customers and they will spend X amount of money, we think.
Yeah, it's nice even in
to make assumptions.
Yeah, and even in a big like market like this, you can say like 1% of the customers. You know, like there's so many of them. Like even 0.01% of the customers. You know what I mean? You still got a massive business.
Yep, we're all good at that. Yep.
Yeah, so that's why it's nice to show. It's like we don't need to capture 10, 20, 30%. We only need to capture 0.01. I was like, there's lots of room for businesses. Then another one cool call out that Darrell added in here was only 1 in 57 people cross 10,000 subs. But it doesn't matter because subscriptions don't actually equal profit anymore. And we're seeing that with much smaller creators generating money. So what we're really trying to show here is we're not trying to go after the biggest YouTubers. We're just trying to go after the people that are trying to drive traffic to their business, because that just opens up our market more. It's like, it doesn't say like, okay, well, there's 207 million creators, but only 1% of those are the top performing and that's our audience. We're saying, no, anyone that's trying to make money from YouTube is our audience. So that's why we put that in there.
Yeah, cool. And that's also come from other conversations where people have said like, oh, you should try and get XYZ creator on it because they've got 1 million subs. And it's like that their formatting doesn't necessarily fit. And if someone has 1,000 subs and they get 20 views a video, but they make 10 grand per video from selling info products, that's perfectly fine with us. And they're the type of person that has money to spend and understands repeat things and efficiency in the ways that we would perform really well as a software for.
Yep. So then the next slide is just, we're basically applying some social proof here. So we're like, this is hard when you're just starting out and have no users and trying to pitch. But look, I almost don't reckon that's a good time to pitch because you have nothing to offer. So it's almost worth like holding off to get some sort of concept, because a lot of people go in like, I've got no money, I need to hire a dev to implement my idea. And you're like, you're already just going to get a really bad valuation and a really poor, you're going to lose a lot of equity for that. It's much better to go in a little bit stronger. Like, we've got a product, we've got some users, and this is what we're showing here. We're like, hey, we're not starting from nothing. We actually know, and we're already able to show how good we are from what our users are saying. So that's what we're pulling out here. It's just like, hey, we're getting some good feedback and people that are willing to write testimonials for us. So we've actually got some traction.
I would just say on that one, if you absolutely can't get that, so first step would be, don't worry about if you have to prove it with a no-code app, that's fine. These like VCs at a seed level are expecting at some point you're going to have to rebuild the code and hire a dev team anyway. But if you can't get any testimonials from your service like that, you could also use counter testimonials, like negatives, people pointing out that they absolutely have this pain. So if there was a Twitter post and someone said like, I would pay $1 million if someone just fixed this problem, like, use that. It doesn't matter. Like, if someone's saying that they have the pain point, that can also be used if you can't get testimonials. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it that way. Testimonials better. But if you can't, try do something like that, which sort of paints the picture of like, this person would be happy if I existed.
Yes. I like that too, because that's actually why Clipflow, one of the reasons Clipflow started. Because we saw all the YouTube videos talking about how
it came from a pain point.
Yeah. We were like, people are literally going to spend the time recording a video talking about this thing multiple times about the problems in the current workflow. It's like, well, that's an issue. That's a pain point. It's not like a lot of people are like, oh, that's a painkiller. Like, I remember it's either a painkiller or a vitamin, right? We've been right in the beginning, people are like, oh, it feels like a vitamin. It's like, well, no, you've missed the point. It's not actually. When you actually do this as a job, it's a pain point. So you can definitely, that's a great point, Darrell. And then what we moved on to this slide is much of the same thing. We're just hammering it back again. So we said, like, we knew the pain points, but now here's some more testimonials, and it kind of feeds into that again. So it's just saying how we've made project management so much easier, and how the team's now organized and scheduled. So it's just strengthening what we're saying we're going to do, and we've got multiple users here saying those things. So it's just adding to that social proof and just proving that what we're doing is actually working. So again, depending on the round you're in, depending on what you want to say, very important.
I think you've got to be conscious of what round you're in and the competition you will be in at that round. So we know, like, getting money this early, not many people have users. So having testimonials of people using a working product is a big benefit. If you're at Series C, you're not doing this. You're not saying testimonials. You're saying numbers of there's different ways of trying to separate yourself from competition at the different stages of fundraising.
Yes, good. Yeah. So this is addressed at the early, but as you go, you just change what you're saying. So very good. Because you're like, I need because you need bigger amounts of money as you go down. It's like, we need millions of dollars. Why? Because this is what we want to do. It's more about what are you going to spend that money on? You've already proven the idea. So it's all about metrics. Okay, next one, talking about money. So this is why we're raising money. And this is interesting for people who are watching and going, why are you raising money? You did it before without money. This is why. Darrell, talk us through it.
Yeah, so we are typically anti-fundraising. So this is an interesting one. Basically, we wanted to talk about what we will be spending the money on. Typically in VC land, if you tell them you can spend a lot of money really fast, if they have confidence in the business, that'll be like a red rag to bull to them. They want to be spending money and like leveraging things and really speedy growth. We are conservative and slower spending, but we do have very specific things we want to spend on, and they are going to want to know where the money's going. Obviously, they would probably prefer if you were going to spool up a team of 10 engineers and say that you could do things that whatever your promise of your product is. We just wanted to clarify these are the things that we will do faster and do more effectively, which will contribute to growth. If we had the money, this is where we would spend it, so that it just saves them asking the question, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about the value of these things to our business right now, how it affects our product development moving forward. Because obviously, without the money, we spend less on this, we do more on product development. With the money, you spend more on this, you do more product development for us too, because we're resource limited. Having money will enable us to do these things more while building the product more. And for us, these are the three things that we wanted to spend it on: content production, advertising, and marketing. And this we use to also speak to the trends in the market. Because our product is focused on video first marketing businesses, SaaS, content creators, we basically wanted to also use this as an opportunity of like reaffirming our belief that this is the only way to do business now. If you want to grow, you need a content engine behind you. You need to spend on advertising, and you need to be doing specific things in marketing that our product facilitates. So that was a really important one for us to include, not just to say this is where your money's going, but also we are betting on the same thing that we've just promised you at the start. This is what we're going to be doing. This is what we think everyone is going to be doing in the future.
Yep. And then I think it's also key here to talk about the things you're not going to spend on, because they're going to come in and say, hey, you can hire 3 devs. And you're like, well, no, because that's not going to speed us up. That's going to slow us down. Because we're also in the world now, it's a very different world. We're in a world of AI. We're in a world of smaller teams. Like the future isn't bigger teams. The future is smaller teams working much more efficiently and faster. So we're like betting on that. We know, like we've run big teams. We've seen how it slows you down. We've seen how fast we can move now. So we're betting on that. And it also talks on, they're going to go, like, well, where's the team spending? Like, well, that's not what we want to spend on. We want to spend on the things that we know will drive. And I think that the key thing here also is we come from a world where we have been bootstrapped. We know how to save money and spend the money like it's your own. And I think this is very important for most people who get funding, is they've never dealt with money at a certain level, and they don't understand how valuable it is. You can spend it very fast. It's very easy to spend money, but you want to be thinking about that dollar. It's like, when you spend it, like if you didn't spend it, what would happen? If you do spend it, what's going to happen? And you really want to be clear. And you want to take little gambles over time, like with advertising. We're spending on advertising and we're learning, but we're not throwing thousands of dollars on an experiment. You start small and then you build up as you get more skills. And the same thing is like, you don't go and hire a team of 10 when you don't know how to manage another one person because you've never done it before. Start small. Start with just you. Add another one. See how that goes. Don't just go mental. And that's sometimes what you can get a trap in with the VCs. They just say, hire 10 engineers. And you're like, okay. Now you're a manager and you have no idea and you lose all focus. So very key here. What are we not spending on? And this is just brings up that discussion point in the meeting.
And it's good to have those. Like, it's hard to anticipate what things can go wrong early on, but anything you bring up here is going to prevent an awkward conversation later. So say this went through and someone did their pitch deck and they said these things and they said what they're not going to do. Later on, they don't have to have an awkward conversation of like, why aren't you doing what I'm suggesting? It's a good idea. And you're like, well, I never really wanted to do that. It's the same as any relationship. Saying the things that you will and won't do up front saves you a lot of pain of conversations or not had conversations later that create tension with the person who gave you money, which there will be a lot of pressure in the future for anyone who's watching this and considering pitching to VCs. There will be pressure in the future. Whether or not the VC is a pressured VC that's trying to push you or they're just suggesting, you will still always feel beholden to the person who financed.
Yep, 100%. All right. Now what we're doing here is we're just outlining our milestones. So again, why it's good to have some sort of track record. Like it could even just be your history. You could do that if you were trying to grab at straws. But we're just talking about what we're doing in this product. So we started in January 24. And basically it's been a year and we're just talking about the timeline, how we've gone. So we've gone like started building in Jan 24 as part-time, and then we moved into May 24. I went full-time. Darrell joined full-time in October. We started adding beta, and then it's showing in January we started running paid ads. So just showing that there's actually some movement in the product and that we've actually launched and we're getting users and kind of where we're moving. So, it's a bit light. But it just allows, again, use the slides as talking points. Don't just put heaps of text here because the human brain's just going to look at something and then they're going to ask questions on these things. Again, here, we're just touching on, again, a little bit of social proof and showing that it's actually working. So we're just highlighting some stuff. These stats are all so funny, already so outdated in the last 2 weeks. And even by the time this video comes out, the users...
2x. Hockey stick.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Graphic quickly.
Yeah, quickly write it down. But it's great. This is why it's great to have all this stuff and document it all, because it shows you the growth. But we're just showing here, this is how many users we got. We've got this many orgs. And then we can talk on like, your assumptions in the beginning is like, oh, it's going to be a per project thing. That's how you're going to determine success. And we can see here from this, the projects are reasonably low. But we know from watching users and stuff, what actually matters is how many touch points there are in the project, which is more related to tasks. How many tasks are being completed and how many comments. Because it's a project can take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to be finished. So it could be low volume, but the users are coming into the platform and using it for ages, which I think we talk on in the next slide. But you can see here, we're just highlighting some key stats. And obviously, as the platform grows, you're going to have more and more interesting stats to talk about. But I think it's very interesting to show this. And look, we're saying since October 24. So that's not very long. But we're just showing we're actually getting some sort of traction here. And even these are already outdated, so it's funny to look at.
Yeah. And if you don't have usage statistics, it's perfectly fine here, I would say, to talk about the things that you expect to be important, even though they might be wrong. Things that contribute to growth, things that contribute to income, and things that indicate that the product is useful to the user. Those are the things that I'd be looking for. So find out whatever it is around your business. Like you'll be able to see from either competitors or just what problem you're solving. There will potentially be things that you can say, we are going to track this and we expect it to do whatever.
Yep. All right. So what we're talking about here is the session times, and just this is really important because this is what makes, if your product is something that people come back to use, and it's like what we're seeing in ours is how many minutes people are spending, or hours even. People are coming in. Like we've got users in here that are using the system. They're jumping in and doing a 2-hour session. These are metrics that really matter because this shows that your product, they're actually in it and using it. That's what I think one of the key things that people saw in Slack in the beginning, and when they knew that it was something that was going to really be big, was how many hours people spent in Slack. Right. So what we're seeing now in early days of ClipFlow is just people are spending 2 hours plus a day, which means they're doing a lot of work in our platform. And we haven't optimized for these metrics. What's that one, Darrell? It's just we haven't optimized for these metrics. The product by its nature is central to the workflow of the business and the team.
Yeah, so we haven't deliberately tried to do anything yet to increase session time. So that's just saying like, this is just a natural byproduct of the product existing. We've noticed this. We think it's really confidence inspiring. And if we were to really look at, so something that we're familiar with from our last business is like the ownership of the day's market share of what systems you're using. You can always find things before and after where your product currently sits that would increase their time sessions in your platform. So we can look before, we can look after, we can see what they're doing out here that connects into here, and we can increase that. We can optimize that over time. So this is just purely coincidentally, the product and what they're doing takes a lot of time and they're doing it in our system quite happily. We can make it even better later.
Yep. So that's a great metric. So here we're just showing off our early adopters. We just show, again, social proof. We're really trying, as you can see, we're drilling it home. It's like, hey, this is a real thing. It's actually growing. And we're just kind of highlighting the different types of users that use this platform. We have agencies, we have course creators, we have normal creators. And yeah, so it's just kind of highlighting all that. And then here is our final, I believe it's our final slide, but we're just talking about we always like to talk about this, but it's like we're on version 4, which basically says we've iterated on this many times and we're only starting because we know that this is going to just constantly change. And our strength, and which is what we said in the beginning, is that we can execute fast. So we're taking our user feedback, we're listening to them, we're creating raving fans, and then we're implementing those things as fast as possible so that we can hit product market fit and know exactly who our customer is. And we're just doing it through talking to users, right? And I actually think there's no amount of AI or anything that's going to give you that advantage. because you need to actually develop relationships with people where they like to talk to you and they understand, and then you go and execute. AI is going to help you execute, but it's going to develop the relationships, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And you need to be able to talk to them and make sure you're getting that feedback. And you have to develop a relationship for people to actually give you free feedback, because you could either be the kind of company that doesn't listen to feedback, so people just stop giving feedback, or you react weird to feedback, you can get aggressive. So no, it's meant to work like that. And it's a very fine line to kind of walk, because you have to also can't take all feedback, but you develop the skills of being able to handle that. And that's what we're trying to do, is like develop a really strong community, because we know that they will also sell that. They'll become salespeople for our product, and referrals are super strong. And we're just kind of communicating that here to the investors and just saying, hey, we're only just getting started. We've been grinding, but we're going to just keep going. And we're just going to keep moving fast. So either come on for the ride, or you're going to be left behind and you're going to have to come in a different series at way more money.
Yep. Finish strong. Whatever your strongest thing is, it doesn't matter for us. This is a strength of us and the fact that we've already got in early and done a lot of work. Finish strong, whatever it is, whether it's the potential market size, whatever the strongest thing about your pitch deck is, just finish strong on that, and that'll lead on into conversations about whatever it is you say here.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be the last thing they remember more than anything.
Yeah. So I think that is the last slide. Yes, it is. So from here, what will generally happen is you're going to chat. They're going to stop. They're going to talk about the preso, and then they're going to start asking questions. So you need to be prepared. So it's always good to like spend a bit of time understanding who you're talking to, and then also developing the relationship, so you can start, and try not to get defensive on questions, because you're going to get quite heavy, and sometimes they come in hot and heavy with the questions, and you don't have to answer them. If you don't know the answer, you can talk about it, but just again say, we don't know the answer to this yet. We're going to experiment with it and figure it out. So you don't have to always have the answer. You just have to be able to handle and present. Because remember, in the end of the day, they are investing in the founders, in you. So even if you don't have the answers, you can be like, cool, that's a great point, and something we should consider, and we'll probably have a look for, and we'll get back to you on that one. Just the way you talk.
I think that's a really good point, because most people doing these pitch decks won't actually have done much business before. Is like a VC. If they're an owner of a business, they're not going to be mad if, like, you're going to become a manager at some point. You're going to have to make decisions. They're not going to be mad if you say, well, A, I'm going to wait till I have the right data to make the decision, and B, I can hire someone to do that thing that you're talking about if it's required at the time. Like, they're not going to care if you tell them that I don't know how to do that yet, but we will find someone who knows how to do that, and they can do that when it comes time. They're not really going to care about that. So you don't have to feel like, oh yeah, I already thought of everything. This is how you would deal with it.
Yeah. And they want to learn, what they want to see is they're putting pressure on you, and they want to see how you react under pressure, and they want to see how you think. Because that's the key. It's like, how do you problem solve? Because that's what business is, problem solving. We got asked a really funny one. It's like, what are you going to do about your American offices? Because you need to exist in America. And the answer is, hey, look, we don't know yet. We don't need an American office right now, but we'll figure it out. Like, when it happens, it happens. And I'm like, we'll pay the right people to be there, but it won't be me. Like, do you know what I mean? So there's always an answer, and there's a way.
Like in an American flag and the land of the free.
So you don't have to know the answers. You just have to know how to answer the question in a nice way. So that's our pitch deck, and that's kind of where we are at the moment. Obviously, we're having fun. That's the key thing here is we did stress that. It's like, we're doing business because we enjoy it. That's why we're doing it. So second one, people always ask you that question, why are you doing it? Well, because we have fun. And that's why we're doing the VC stuff. It's fun. You learn. It was a really good, I do actually suggest creating pitch decks for your products, even if you aren't planning on presenting. Because what it does is it makes you think in a certain way. It's like, what problems are we solving? Like, this was a really good exercise for me, even though I've been building the product for almost a year, coming back and saying like, well, what are the problems? And like, how can I communicate this clearly, quickly? And it actually refines the way you think. And it's actually a good process to do. So I would suggest doing one anyway, just for fun, just as a learning experience, and when you're starting, just to figure it out. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you are in the process of creating a pitch deck, this video is for you. If you have any friends who you know that might be building a new business, send this through to them. And if you want a copy of the pitch deck, we will link it below so that you can download it and have a great little look at it. Please don't copy it, because obviously it's not going to apply to your business. put some time in. We don't want to see our pitch decks ending up with other businesses.
At least change slide number 2 with our faces if you can do it.
At the minimum. So,